Hi, I'm Derek Creval, founder of Vehicle Graphics Academy and author of Vehicle Graphics Campaign Strategies. I'm assuming that you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, and your goal is to use vehicle graphics to increase sales, generate revenue, at some point promote your business. I speak to many business owners on a daily basis, and they all seem to ask the same questions. So I thought I'd take a little bit of time and try and cover some of the answers with you in order to speed the process up. But when I'm done the questions, I want to discuss the questions I think you should be asking in order to be successful with vehicle graphics. Now here are some of the questions I get. Derek, how much does this stuff cost? What type of coverage should I have on my vehicle? What do you need from me to create actual vehicle graphics? How long does the process take? Will the vehicle graphics harm my paint? How long is it going to last on my vehicle? And how do I clean and care for this stuff? Now perhaps you fall into one of those categories and some of those questions are on your mind as well. So let's try and go through and answer them for you as quickly as possible. Now cost, when you start to look at cost is dictated by two things. One is the amount of coverage on your vehicle and actually the type of vehicle, the size of the vehicle. Now, in order to determine cost, you've got to look at what are you trying to accomplish, and that really dictates what you're going to do in the way of coverage. So here's an idea of a full coverage on a very small vehicle. Now there's 5 key questions I think you need to address before you can even get to the question of coverage and answer that appropriately. The first is, what are you trying to accomplish with your vehicle graphics? Are you trying to brand yourself? Are you trying to get to new customers? Are you trying to educate people? What is it that you're trying to do with your vehicle graphics? And then, what type of business do you have? Sometimes the type of business can dictate the style of graphics. In some cases, you might be a small contractor. In that case, you can get away sometimes with a lot simpler design and simpler wrap. But you may be a real estate agent promoting multi-million-dollar homes. You may look at that as a different profile. The other side is, who are you targeting? Who is your customer base? Your customer base and what you're trying to communicate will also dictate what type of wrap you can get away with. Your message is also very, very critical. It ties in again with who you're targeting and what you're promoting. And then what type of vehicle are you trying to do this on? The vehicle will make a huge difference in the communication process. In some cases you may have a van which has a lot more real estate. It's a lot easier to communicate a message on it. If you have a smaller vehicle, that dictates the style and type of communications you can actually produce on that vehicle. It will also dictate the amount of coverage on that vehicle. And then how are you going to use this vehicle wrap? Are you going to be in traffic? Are you looking at this as very mobile? Most of the focus is going to be when you're in and out of traffic. Is it going to be parked in the driveway when you're doing a house call? Let's say you're a contractor and you're looking to target the neighbors with that. In that case, the style of wrap and where the message and content is will vary very differently as opposed to if you're driving it around. Now the other side is this vehicle going to be perhaps parked as a billboard? Are you going to position this somewhere close to your business and actually use it as a big billboard? That will also dictate the amount of coverage, the style of wrap, also the type of vehicle will make a big difference there. The last question is the vehicle leased? Now if the vehicle is leased, one of the key issues that you have to consider is when you turn the vehicle in at the end of the lease. If you do a partial wrap, the areas on the vehicle that are not covered by vinyl typically will fade because of sunlight, and dependent on how long you actually have the graphics on the vehicle. When you go to remove that graphics, there may be a situation where there's a discoloration in the area where it's not covered as opposed to the area where it is covered. In some cases it will mean that you have to repaint that vehicle at an additional cost. So you may want to consider going with a full wrap, because a full wrap will actually protect the entire paint job, and when you actually remove the graphics, you're basically looking at a brand new paint job. So those are some of the key things that you need to consider when you look at the type of coverage. And once you address those properly, your vehicle graphics company should be able to help you with that. So what do you need to start this process? Well, first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you communicate as clearly as possible exactly what it is that you're trying to accomplish to the designer or the vehicle graphics company. That is very, very critical. You need to make sure that you specify exactly what your objectives are for the vehicle graphics. That will dictate the style of the design. It will help them to help you. You need to also provide any logos, graphics, any captions, anything that you physically want to have on the vehicle. Sometimes you may have some graphics that you use in your marketing that you want to provide them. Certainly you want to provide your logo, and the key to that, you want to provide that in the proper format that they need to use on the vehicle. You want to provide them with as much detail about the actual vehicle, because what they're going to do is they're going to use a template for that vehicle, and it's very important that you communicate very accurately the exact year, make, and model, the style of that vehicle. If it's something that's non-standard, if it's anything that's after market that wasn't on the initial factory, you may want to communicate that to them, because it's very critical in the design process that everything matches up with the vehicle when they're ready to print and install on your vehicle. Any preferences on color schemes? If you've got some marketing that you're doing and you want to make sure that the marketing, the graphics, the style is very consistent with the vehicle, it's not a bad idea, providing that you like that to your existing marketing and graphics. So you definitely want to provide them with, whether it's links to your website, any literature, anything that you have that you want to keep some consistency with. That will help. So those are the things that you really need to provide to the company. And once those are provided, they should have everything they need to at least start the first mock-up. Many people ask, how long is the process going to take? The process is really split up into three real key elements. One is design, the second is actually the printing or creation of the graphic panels, and the third is installation. Typical design will run anywhere from a day to 3 days, depending on the customer and what's being required. The second part of it is the actual printing. Once the panels are printed, they need to dry for a while, at least 24 hours, and then they need to be laminated. And the lamination, then the panels are cut so that they can be installed accurately on the vehicle. Typical printing to lamination will take anywhere from 3 to 4 days, depending on the shop. And then the installation process is dictated by the amount of vinyl being applied to that vehicle and the type of vehicle. So typical installation, most will run anywhere from 5 to 8 hours, typically lasting within a day. And in some cases, for larger vehicles, trailers, tractor trailers, more specialty vehicles, it can take a couple of days depending on the team that's working on.